When I first learned about the Sami people, I discovered a fascinating secret about how they survive harsh winters by stockpiling foods that never expire. When it comes to surviving harsh winters, the Sami people have a unique way of storing foods that last for years, even decades. They use simple, time-tested methods like drying, fermenting, and freezing to preserve their food. The best part? You don't need special equipment or extreme weather to stockpile these foods at home. Most of them are easy to find and store. So, why don't more people know about this? Because in today's world of convenience, we've forgotten the secrets of food that stand the test of time. But don't worry, I'm about to share them with you. Before we dive into the first food on our list, let me tell you this. This is something that has been a lifesaver for the Sami people for centuries. It's incredibly simple, but the way they prepare it is what makes it last forever. And here's the kicker. You probably already have this in your kitchen, but you're not storing it the right way. Let's talk about it. One of the most important foods the Sami people rely on is dried meat, like reindeer or fish. It might sound simple, but the secret lies in how they prepare and store it. They use a method called air drying, where the meat is hung outside in cold, dry air until all the moisture is gone. Without moisture, bacteria and mold can't grow, which is why it can last for years. Now, you're probably wondering, why don't they just use modern methods to preserve it? The Sami people live in remote areas where refrigerators or freezers aren't practical, or even available. Instead, they've perfected air drying, which doesn't rely on power and keeps the meat shelf-stable, lightweight, and perfect for long-term storage. Imagine this. It's the dead of winter in the Arctic, and the snow is falling so hard you can't see more than a few feet in front of you. For weeks, the Sami family's usual hunting grounds are completely cut off by massive snowdrifts. Hunting? Impossible. Foraging? Out of the question. But while others might panic, this family stays calm. Why? Because hanging in their food storage area is a stockpile of dried reindeer meat, carefully prepared during the warmer months. For over 3 months, that dried meat becomes their main source of nourishment. Day after day, it keeps them strong and healthy, even as the brutal winter rages outside. This isn't just food. It's survival, passed down through generations. The Sami people know that when nature is unpredictable, preparation is everything. That dried meat was their lifeline, and it's a method they've relied on for centuries. So, can you make this at home? Absolutely. You don't need to hunt reindeer. You can air dry beef, chicken, or even fish. All you need is a clean, dry space, some airflow, and patience. It's an ancient method that's still practical today. Here's a tip. For the best results, season the meat with salt and spices before drying. It helps preserve it even longer and adds flavor. Once it's dried, store it in airtight containers or vacuum-sealed bags to keep it fresh for years. You might think dried meat is impressive, but what if I told you there's a food so durable it's been used for survival at sea, during wars, and even by Arctic explorers? And here's the best part. You can make it at home with just 3 basic ingredients, and this food is hardtack. A tough, cracker-like bread made from just 3 ingredients: flour, water, and salt. The Sami people prepare it by mixing these ingredients into a dough, shaping it into thin pieces, and then air drying it in cold, dry conditions. This removes all the moisture, making it nearly impossible for mold or bacteria to grow. Instead of relying on modern ovens or fancy tools, they use nature, cold air, and time to create a food that can last for years. Once dried, it's stored in wooden boxes or wrapped in cloth to keep it safe from pests and moisture. A Sami herder once found himself snowed in with no access to fresh food for weeks. He survived entirely on his stockpile of hardtack and dried fish. Each day he softened the hardtack in water and paired it with a small piece of fish. It wasn't a feast, but it kept him strong and alive until the snow melted and he could return to his routine. This simple survival bread has been a staple for the Sami people for generations. and its durability is why they still rely on it today. And guess what? You don't have to live in the Arctic to see the value in this food. Hardtack is incredibly easy to make at home. Simply mix flour, water, and salt into a dough. Roll it out thin, and let it air dry completely. Once it's hard as a rock, it's ready for storage. To make hardtack more enjoyable, try adding herbs or spices to the dough before drying. It doesn't change the shelf life, but gives it a bit more flavor. Next, we'll talk about a food that not only lasts forever, but also improves with time. Food so versatile and long-lasting that it was once considered as valuable as gold. The Sami people have relied on this for centuries, not just for nourishment, but also for trade. And the best part, it actually gets better with age. This isn't just any food, it's honey. Let's start with the reality. Most of us think of honey as just a sweetener for tea or a topping for toast. We buy it, use it, and often forget it in the back of the cupboard. Over time, it crystallizes, and we assume it's gone bad. But the Sami people see honey differently. To them, it's not just food, it's medicine, energy, and a survival tool. Now imagine this. You've stored honey in a sealed container for years. One day you open it, and it's still perfect, just as sweet, rich, and golden as the day you stored it. That's the beauty of honey. Its natural composition, low moisture and high acidity, makes it nearly impossible for bacteria to survive. Archaeologists have even found honey in ancient Egyptian tombs that's still edible. In many households, honey is an afterthought, just another jar in the pantry. What could be? For the Sami people, honey is a treasure. They use it to sweeten food, treat wounds, and fuel their bodies during harsh winters. Imagine the peace of mind knowing you have something so versatile and everlasting in your survival kit. Here's how you can store honey like the Sami people. Keep it in an airtight glass jar, away from heat and direct sunlight. If it crystallizes, don't throw it away. Just place the jar in warm water and it'll return to its liquid form. And if you want to go a step further, consider sourcing raw, unfiltered honey, as it retains even more of its natural properties. Up next, we'll reveal a food that's so rare and fascinating, it was once considered a luxury of kings. But for the Sami people, it's a necessity. This special food has been part of their survival for generations. It's not just delicious, it's a key to how they endure harsh conditions. They've discovered a way to make it last a really long time. And here's the surprising part. You'd never guess this food could stay good forever. Let's find out what it is. The food we're talking about is cheese, but not the kind you find in the fridge at your local store. For the Sami people, cheese is more than just a luxury. It's a key to survival. They've used it for generations, not only because it's delicious, but because it's incredibly practical. Through careful aging and drying, they turn cheese into a long-lasting, nutrient-packed food that can endure even the harshest winters. Unlike fresh cheese, which spoils quickly, the Sami allow their cheese to harden over time, naturally removing moisture. This process creates a sturdy, shelf-stable product that can last for months or even years without refrigeration. It's a perfect balance of tradition and function, transforming a perishable item into a survival essential. You can use the same method at home with aged cheeses like Parmesan or Pecorino. These cheeses are naturally hard and low in moisture, making them ideal for long-term storage. When kept in a cool, dry place and wrapped in wax paper or cheesecloth, they can stay fresh for an impressive amount of time. For best results, avoid wrapping cheese in plastic, as it traps moisture and may cause spoilage. A small piece of aged cheese can go a long way. Use it to add flavor to meals, or as a standalone snack in emergencies. What if I told you there's a food that doesn't just last forever, but also works as a natural remedy? The Sami people have relied on it for centuries to stay healthy during harsh winters. It's simple, powerful, and something you might already have at home. The food we're talking about is salted fish, a staple that's more than just a source of nutrition. For the Sami people, it's a lifeline, packed with protein and essential nutrients to keep their bodies strong during harsh winters. But what makes it even more incredible is its dual purpose. It's both food and a natural remedy. Salted fish is made by curing fresh fish with salt. This process draws out the moisture, preventing bacteria and mold from spoiling it. The result is a food that can last for months, or even years, when stored properly. The Sami rely on salted fish not only to nourish their families, but also to help replenish electrolytes and maintain energy levels when food options are scarce. The beauty of salted fish lies in its simplicity and practicality. Imagine this. After a long day working in freezing conditions, a Sami elder unwraps a piece of cured fish stored in cloth. The salt has preserved its flavor and nutrients, and with just a bit of water or fire to soften it, it becomes a hearty meal. There's no need for refrigeration or complicated preparation, just salt and time. This essence of simplicity is what makes salted fish timeless. It's not just survival food. It's a connection to nature and tradition, one that ensures sustainability and health. If you want to incorporate this method, it's easier than you think. Start with fresh fish. Coat it generously with salt, and let it cure in a cool, dry place for a few days. Once it's ready, store it in an airtight container, or hang it in a well-ventilated space. It's a practical solution for emergencies, camping trips, or even as a way to reduce food waste. And here is a pro tip for you. For extra flavor, you can add spices or herbs to the salt before curing the fish. Think of it as a simple way to create a protein-packed food that's both delicious and incredibly long-lasting. And if you're ever stuck in tough conditions, salted fish could be the key to keeping your strength up. Next up, there's a food the Sami people use that's not just for eating. It has so many uses, it might be one of the most versatile items in their stockpile. From cooking to treating small wounds, this simple staple has been a game changer for generations. Let's talk about animal fat. Yes, good old-fashioned rendered fat, like tallow or lard. For the Sami people, this isn't just a cooking ingredient, it's a survival powerhouse. They use it for frying food, preserving meat, waterproofing gear, and even protecting their skin from harsh Arctic winds. It's nature's all-in-one survival tool, and it's been a game changer for generations. Now, let's compare this to modern life. Think about how many products we buy today. Cooking oil for the kitchen, moisturizers for your skin, wax for waterproofing boots. The Sami use one natural product, animal fat, to do it all. It's like the Swiss Army knife of food supplies. Why clutter your pantry or storage space with dozens of items when one ingredient can handle so many tasks? In our modern kitchens, we pour olive oil into a pan for cooking. Later, we grab a separate jar of lotion to soothe dry hands. Meanwhile, the Sami melt a little tallow to fry food, and then dab the leftover on their skin to lock in moisture. They're saving space, money, and time, all while using something completely natural. It's practical and sustainable. And here's a fun thought. Who knew that the secret to glowing skin could also be what's keeping your steak from sticking to the pan? The Sami might just be the original multitaskers. Forget fancy spa treatments. Just reach for a jar of rendered fat and call it a day. If you want to try this, rendering animal fat is simple. Slowly heat pieces of fatty meat, like beef or pork fat, until it melts. Strain out any solids and store the liquid fat in an airtight container. It'll solidify into a white, creamy texture once cooled. Keep it in a cool, dark place, and it'll last for months, or longer if refrigerated. Use it for frying, greasing pans, or even as a natural moisturizer for your skin. Just make sure no one confuses it with your cooking supply. Next, we're diving into a tiny but mighty food that the Sami people have relied on for centuries. Packed with nutrients, this little powerhouse is easy to store, lasts for years, and can provide a big boost of energy when you need it most. You won't believe how something so small can be so important. The food we're talking about is berries, specifically dried or frozen ones like cloudberries, lingonberries, and bilberries, which are staples in the Sami diet. These berries aren't just delicious. They're packed with essential vitamins, antioxidants, and energy-boosting nutrients, making them a true survival superfood. The Sami people use traditional methods like drying and freezing to preserve berries for the long, harsh winters. Drying is a simple but effective way to remove moisture, which prevents bacteria and mold from spoiling the berries. To dry berries, they spread them out in a single layer on clean, flat surfaces and let the cold, dry Arctic air gradually dehydrate them. At home, you can achieve a similar result using an oven or dehydrator at a low temperature, around 120 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Just wash the berries, pat them dry, and spread them out on a tray. Once dried, store them in airtight jars to keep them fresh for months. Freezing is another method they use to preserve berries, keeping their flavor and nutrients intact for years. The Sami freeze them by storing them in naturally cold environments, such as snow-covered ground or ice cellars. At home, you can freeze berries by washing and drying them, then spreading them out on a baking sheet in a single layer. Once frozen, transfer them to freezer-safe bags or containers. This prevents clumping and makes it easy to grab a handful whenever needed. Both methods make berries incredibly versatile. They can be eaten as snacks, added to stews, or even boiled into teas and syrups for extra energy and nutrition. Think about this in practical terms. In modern life, we rely on supplements and packaged energy bars to boost our health. But berries naturally provide many of the same benefits. A small handful of dried berries can deliver essential vitamins, like vitamin C, to keep your immune system strong, and antioxidants to fight off free radicals. Now imagine this. Instead of buying processed energy snacks that expire quickly, you have a jar of dried berries in your pantry. They're lightweight, take up little space, and provide an instant boost of nutrients and energy whenever you need them. No artificial ingredients, no added preservatives. It's like nature's multivitamin, but tastier. And here's a bonus. You don't need fancy recipes to enjoy them. Just toss a few into your oatmeal or tea, and you've got a delicious, nutrient-packed meal in seconds. Plus, they're perfect for outdoor adventures. Light, compact, and ready to fuel you on the go. If you want to preserve berries like the Sami, drying is the easiest option. Use a dehydrator or your oven at a low temperature to remove the moisture. Store the dried berries in airtight jars, and they'll last for months. Alternatively, freeze them in sealed bags or containers to lock in their nutrients and enjoy fresh-tasting berries whenever you want. Coming up next is a food that not only nourishes, but also hydrates. A rare combination that the Sami people have depended on for centuries. It's refreshing, versatile, and a key to survival in harsh conditions. You won't believe how simple yet essential this food is. The food we're discussing here isn't just for nourishment, it's also a source of hydration. It's birch sap, a natural liquid that the Sami people harvest directly from birch trees during the spring thaw. This sap is rich in nutrients like potassium, calcium, and magnesium, making it an invaluable resource for survival. Birch sap is tapped from the tree by making a small incision or inserting a spout to draw out the clear, slightly sweet liquid. The Sami have mastered this process, carefully timing their harvest to ensure they collect the sap when it's at its peak nutrient content. To store it, they use natural methods like fermentation, where the sap is kept in sealed containers, allowing it to develop into a nutrient-rich, slightly fizzy drink that lasts for weeks. In colder conditions, they freeze the sap in containers or in naturally icy environments, preserving its freshness for months. Unlike many other survival foods, birch sap provides both hydration and essential minerals, making it particularly useful during long, cold months when fresh water and nutrients are scarce. In survival situations or even during outdoor adventures like camping, staying hydrated is just as important as eating. While most of us rely on bottled water or energy drinks, the Sami have relied on nature's solution: birch sap. Think of it as a natural sports drink. No additives, no processing, just pure energy and hydration from the tree. If you've ever seen birch trees near your home or during hikes, you could technically tap them yourself. With the right tools and a bit of care, you can access this natural resource during the early spring months. However, it's important to note that you should only take small amounts to avoid damaging the tree. Birch sap doesn't store well for long, so it's typically consumed fresh or preserved by fermentation. If you want to preserve birch sap for later use, fermentation is the most practical method. By allowing the sap to ferment naturally, you can create a mildly fizzy, nutrient-rich drink that stays good for weeks. Alternatively, you can freeze it immediately after collecting to maintain its freshness for a longer time. If you're near birch trees in the right season, this could be a game changer for hydration and survival. Next, we'll reveal a food that's so simple yet so powerful. It's been a cornerstone of the Sami people's survival for centuries. This humble staple is not only incredibly easy to store, but can also last for decades without losing its value. You'll be amazed at how essential this food truly is. Let's talk about barley, a simple, humble grain that has been a cornerstone of the Sami people's diet for generations. Why? Because it's incredibly versatile, easy to store, and when stored properly, can last for decades. Barley is not just a food. It's a reliable source of energy, fiber, and nutrients like B vitamins and magnesium. Now, you might be wondering, how do they store it to make it last so long? It's simple. They keep it dry. The Sami store barley in tightly sealed containers, away from moisture, pests, and sunlight. By keeping it in a cool, dry place, they ensure the grain stays fresh for years. This method prevents it from spoiling or losing its nutritional value. So why is barley such a great option for long-term storage? It's all about the moisture. Barley has a naturally low moisture content, which makes it much less likely to spoil. It's also incredibly durable, holding up well in various conditions compared to other grains. This is why it's been a survival staple for centuries. And let's talk about versatility. Barley isn't just for one type of meal. You can use it in so many ways. Add it to soups and stews for a hearty texture, toss it into salads for a nutty crunch, or even grind it into flour for baking. It's one of those ingredients that works just as well in a comforting dinner as it does in a quick, nutritious breakfast. Now, storing barley is super simple. Just keep it in an airtight container, or use vacuum-sealed bags to protect it from moisture and pests. If you live in a humid area, you can even toss in an oxygen absorber to extend its shelf life even further. With the right storage, barley can stay fresh for years. Up next is a food that's tiny but mighty. It has been used for centuries as both a spice and a natural preservative. The Sami people rely on it for its incredible ability to enhance flavor while keeping food fresh for longer. You'll be surprised how this little ingredient plays such a big role in survival. Let's talk about salt, the unassuming tiny crystal that has been keeping food fresh and flavors bold for centuries. For the Sami people, salt is an absolute essential. It's their go-to for preserving meat and fish, adding flavor to meals, and let's be honest, making their survival stockpile actually taste good. Because, let's face it, survival food without salt is basically cardboard. Here's the genius of salt. It pulls moisture out of food, which means bacteria and mold don't stand a chance. The Sami use it to cure fish and meat, turning perishable items into long-lasting delicacies. It's like nature's original fridge, except it doesn't need electricity and doesn't stink when the power goes out. If you want to start using salt like the Sami, try curing some meat at home. It's simple. Just coat it in a thick layer of salt, let it sit for a few days, and boom, you've got your own DIY preserved meat. Think of it as making your own artisanal charcuterie. And hey, it's way cheaper than buying fancy cured meats from the store. Your wallet will thank you. Salt is proof that the simplest things can be the most powerful. Next up is a food that's not just long-lasting. It's one of the few foods that actually gets better the longer you store it. The Sami people have treasured this for generations, and it's something you probably already have in your kitchen. Alright, let's talk about fermented fish. Yes, you heard me right. Fish that's been intentionally aged to perfection. For the Sami people, this isn't just a quirky tradition. It's a survival staple that lasts for months and actually gets better over time. Why? Because the fermentation process transforms the fish. When you salt it and let it ferment, the salt draws out moisture, creating an environment where bacteria and mold can't grow. Instead, beneficial bacteria take over, preserving the fish while enhancing its flavor and nutrients. It's like nature's own preservative system, turning something perishable into a long-lasting superfood. That's why fermented fish can stay safe to eat for months without refrigeration. Pretty genius, right? Okay, I know what you're thinking. Fermented fish. Really? But think about this. We pay good money for aged cheese and fine wine, because aging brings out bold flavors, right? Fermented fish is the Sami's equivalent of gourmet food, except instead of pairing it with crackers and wine, they spread it on bread, or toss it into stews to make hearty meals. And hey, if you've ever forgotten leftovers in the back of your fridge, congratulations! You've dabbled in the art of unintentional fermentation. The Sami just do it on purpose and turn it into something way more delicious and useful. You might also wonder, what does it taste like? Let me be honest, it's an acquired taste. Think salty, tangy, and a little funky, like strong blue cheese. If you're a fan of bold flavors, you'll probably love it. If not, well, at least you can appreciate the genius of how it's made. And here's another question you might have. Can I try this at home? The short answer, yes. But here's the catch. You'll need some patience and maybe a tolerant family. All you need is fish, salt, and an airtight container. Layer the fish with salt, seal it up, and let it sit for weeks or even months in a cool, dry spot. Just one pro tip. Don't open the container indoors unless you're ready for a serious smell. Ventilation is your best friend. Fermented fish may not be for everyone, but its longevity, nutrition, and versatility make it a survival food that stood the test of time. And if nothing else, it's a fun way to experiment with food traditions that have been around for centuries. Let's turn our attention to whole grains. Another staple that has been a cornerstone of the Sami people's survival strategy for centuries. Grains like rye and oats are incredibly versatile, easy to store, and packed with nutrients that provide long-lasting energy. For the Sami, these grains have been an essential part of their diet, offering a steady source of carbohydrates to keep them fueled in cold, demanding conditions. The beauty of whole grains is their ability to last for years when stored properly. They're low in moisture and resistant to spoilage, making them perfect for long-term storage. The Sami would often grind these grains into flour, or cook them into hearty porridge to create nutrient-dense meals that kept them energized throughout the day. The Sami people stored their grains in sealed containers, protecting them from moisture, pests, and sunlight. You can do the same at home by using airtight jars, food-grade buckets, or vacuum-sealed bags. For even longer storage, consider freezing grains or adding oxygen absorbers to your containers. These simple methods can keep your grains fresh for years. Next up is a food that's been a hidden survival gem for centuries. Lightweight, versatile, and incredibly easy to store, this food has nourished people across the globe, and the Sami had their own way of using it. Let's talk about corn, a food that has stood the test of time as a reliable and versatile survival staple. While corn may not be native to the Arctic regions where the Sami traditionally lived, it became an essential part of their diet through trade and cultural exchanges. Corn's ability to be dried and stored for long periods made it a valuable addition to their food reserves, especially when preparing for harsh winters. Historically, corn's origins trace back to ancient Mesoamerica, where it was first domesticated thousands of years ago. As it spread across the globe, its versatility and resilience made it a staple in many cultures, including the Sami, who adapted it to suit their needs. By grinding dried corn into flour, they created hearty meals like porridge or flatbreads, providing much-needed energy in a lightweight, easy-to-store form. Today, corn remains one of the most versatile foods you can have in your pantry. Think of polenta, cornmeal, or even popcorn. These are all modern variations of how corn has been used for centuries. Imagine using dried corn to make a simple, filling meal during a camping trip, or even as a backup in emergencies. Corn's long shelf life makes it ideal for modern food storage. You can buy it in the form of dried kernels or cornmeal, both of which can last for years if stored properly in airtight containers and kept away from moisture. Did you know that dried corn was one of the main foods carried on long voyages, such as those of explorers and traders? Its durability and high energy content made it invaluable for surviving extended journeys, and the Sami, like many others, quickly recognized its value in their food stockpiles. If you're looking to store corn for the long term, keep it in an airtight container in a cool, dry place. For an even longer shelf life, you can add oxygen absorbers. Corn isn't just a survival food. It's a testament to how simple, natural foods have supported humanity for centuries. Next, we're uncovering a food that might surprise you. It's not just a drink, but a powerhouse of nutrition. The Sami people have relied on it for centuries, using a traditional fermentation method to make it last longer and pack even more benefits. Let's talk about fermented reindeer milk, a drink that's not just a beverage, but a survival tool packed with nutrition. For centuries, the Sami people have relied on reindeer milk as a staple of their diet, and they found a way to make it last longer and become even more beneficial by fermenting it. The result? A tangy, creamy drink that's rich in protein, healthy fats, and probiotics, making it perfect for harsh Arctic conditions. The process is simple, yet brilliant. Fresh reindeer milk is left to naturally ferment in cool, clean containers, creating a drink that doesn't just last longer, but also becomes more nutrient-dense. It's their version of yogurt or kefir, except it's made from the milk of their most prized animal, the reindeer. Now, imagine this. You're a Sami herder out in the frozen tundra, miles away from home. You've got a flask of fermented reindeer milk in your pack. It's lightweight, doesn't need refrigeration, and provides everything you need to keep going: hydration, energy, and gut health. It's like nature's original protein shake, but way cooler. In today's world, we go to fancy health stores and pay a fortune for probiotic drinks and kefir. Meanwhile, the Sami have been making their own for centuries, using nothing but fresh milk, a bit of time, and the wisdom of tradition. Makes you wonder who the real food innovators are, doesn't it? Here's a fun fact. Fermented reindeer milk has such a distinct flavor that it might be a bit of a shock to anyone trying it for the first time. It's tangy, earthy, and completely unique, kind of like the Arctic in a glass. If you ever get the chance to taste it, consider it a once-in-a-lifetime experience. And don't be surprised if it grows on you. It's packed with benefits that your gut will thank you for. If you're inspired by this Sami tradition, try experimenting with fermentation at home, using cow's or goat's milk to make your own yogurt or kefir. It's a great way to embrace this age-old practice and enjoy the health benefits of fermented foods. And who knows, maybe one day fermented reindeer milk will make a comeback in modern kitchens. Next, we're diving into a food that's tiny but absolutely packed with nutrients. The Sami people have used it for generations to stay strong and healthy, especially during the harshest winters. It's not just a delicacy, it's a survival superfood. Let's talk about fish roe, or fish eggs, a tiny yet incredibly powerful food that the Sami people have relied on for generations. Packed with protein, omega-3 fatty acids, and essential vitamins, fish roe is a nutrient-dense powerhouse. For the Sami, it's not just a delicacy. It's a vital survival food that provides energy and nourishment, especially during the long, harsh Arctic winters. Fish roe is not only nutritious, but also versatile. The Sami would use it in soups, spread it on flatbread, or even eat it raw. Its small size makes it easy to store and transport, which is why it became a staple for Sami herders and fishermen alike. The Sami have a time-tested method for preserving fish raw that allows it to last for months. Here's how they do it. Number 1. Cleaning the roe. The roe is carefully removed from the fish and cleaned to remove any impurities. 2. Salting. The cleaned roe is mixed with salt, which acts as a natural preservative by drawing out moisture and preventing bacteria from growing. 3. Storing. Once salted, the roe is packed into containers made from wood or birch bark. These containers are then stored in cool, dry places, like natural ice cellars or underground storage, to keep the roe fresh for months. This preservation method not only ensures the roe stays edible, but also enhances its flavor over time, giving it a rich, savory taste. Today, fish roe is still enjoyed all over the world, often as a delicacy in the form of caviar or sushi. But the Sami saw its practical side. They weren't just indulging, they were surviving. If you've ever bought a small jar of caviar, you've probably noticed it's salted. This is the same principle the Sami use to keep their roe fresh for extended periods. And while most of us don't have access to ice cellars, you can still preserve fish roe at home using the Sami method. Simply clean the roe, mix it with a generous amount of salt, and store it in an airtight container in the fridge. It's a simple process that ties us back to centuries-old traditions. Next, we're exploring a food that's not just about flavor. It's about survival. The Sami people have used this for centuries to enhance their meals, boost their health, and even preserve other foods. It's lightweight, easy to store, and lasts for years. Dried herbs might seem simple, but for the Sami people, they've been a vital part of their survival toolkit for centuries. Herbs like angelica, juniper, and birch leaves were gathered during the short Arctic summers and preserved for use throughout the long, harsh winters. These weren't just used to add flavor to meals. They were also valued for their medicinal properties and their ability to preserve other foods. By drying the herbs, the Sami could store them for months or even years without worrying about spoilage. Dried herbs became an essential ingredient in stews, teas, and even as seasoning for preserved fish and meat, transforming basic survival meals into something both nutritious and flavorful. Herbs are gathered during their peak season, usually in summer, when they're most vibrant and packed with nutrients. The Sami would spread the herbs out in a cool, dry, and well-ventilated area, allowing them to air dry naturally. This removes moisture and prevents mold from forming. Once dried, the herbs are crushed or left whole, and stored in small cloth pouches or wooden containers, kept in cool, dry places. For the Sami people, dried herbs like angelica and juniper were essential during harsh winters. They used angelica leaves to make tea for warmth and immunity, while juniper added flavor to soups and preserved foods. These herbs transformed simple meals into something nourishing and comforting, proving that even small ingredients could make a big difference in survival. Next, we're uncovering a food that's not just a survival staple, but also a cultural treasure. The Sami people have relied on it for centuries to stay nourished during long winters, and it's packed with flavor and energy. Let's talk about reindeer sausages, a Sami favorite that's as practical as it is delicious. These sausages are made from reindeer meat and fat, blended with dried herbs for flavor. But here's the real magic. The Sami found clever ways to preserve them for months. They'd smoke or air dry the sausages, removing moisture and creating a natural barrier against bacteria. This simple yet effective process turned reindeer sausages into the ultimate long-lasting survival food. Think of it this way. If jerky and gourmet sausage had a rugged, outdoorsy baby, it'd be reindeer sausage. Lightweight, packed with energy, and easy to carry. It's basically the Sami version of a protein bar, only way tastier. The Sami have been perfecting survival food for centuries, and reindeer sausages are proof that practicality and flavor can go hand in hand. So, who needs modern snacks when you've got this Arctic masterpiece? Next, we're diving into a food that's lightweight, easy to store, and packed with earthy flavor and nutrients. The Sami people have relied on this ingredient for generations to create hearty, comforting meals during long winters. Let's talk about dried mushrooms, a Sami staple that's as flavorful as it is practical. Mushrooms like chanterelles and porcini grow in abundance during the Arctic summers, and the Sami have long relied on them to add a rich, earthy taste to their meals. But the best part, when preserved correctly, dried mushrooms can last for years, making them a go-to ingredient during the long, food-scarce winters. The Sami use a simple yet effective method to preserve mushrooms. First, they clean and slice the mushrooms, then spread them out in the open air to dry. In colder or damper weather, they might smoke them to remove moisture faster, while adding an extra layer of flavor. Once dried, the mushrooms are stored in cloth bags or wooden containers to keep them fresh and ready to use. Dried mushrooms are a flavor bomb. Rehydrating them in water or broth brings them back to life, enhancing soups, stews, and sauces with a deep, earthy taste. The Sami often combine these mushrooms with dried reindeer meat or fish to create hearty, nourishing meals that warm them from the inside out. And the best part, the soaking liquid itself becomes a rich, mushroom-infused broth, so nothing goes to waste. It's like getting 2 ingredients in one. If you want to try this yourself, drying mushrooms at home is easy. Clean and slice them, then dry them in a dehydrator, oven, or simply air dry in a cool, well-ventilated space. Store them in airtight containers, and you'll have a long-lasting ingredient that's as practical as it is delicious, just like the Sami knew all along. Up next is a food that's tangy, crunchy, and built to last. The Sami people have used this for centuries to preserve the flavors of summer and keep their meals exciting during harsh winters. Pickled vegetables were a clever and essential part of the Sami diet. By preserving the freshness of summer's harvest, they ensured a steady supply of nutrients and crunch throughout the harsh winters. Tangy and versatile, these vegetables didn't just add flavor. They brought variety and balance to meals designed to sustain them during tough conditions. The process is simple but brilliant. The Sami would gather vegetables like carrots, turnips, or cabbage during the growing season. These vegetables were cleaned, sliced, and packed into wooden barrels or containers. Then they'd pour a brine made of water, salt, and sometimes vinegar over the vegetables. The fermentation process would begin naturally as the vegetables sat in the brine, creating lactic acid, which acted as a natural preservative. This method not only kept the vegetables fresh for months, but also enhanced their flavor and made them easier to digest. Pickled vegetables are the perfect balance of flavor and function. They're tangy, crunchy, and packed with nutrients, making even the simplest meals feel more complete. The Sami often paired them with dried meats or fish to create a flavorful and satisfying meal during long winters. If you want to try this at home, pickling is super easy. All you need is fresh vegetables, salt, water, and a jar. Pack the vegetables tightly, cover them with brine, and let nature do the rest. Not only will you get a taste of Sami tradition, but you'll also have a tangy, long-lasting addition to your pantry. Our final food is one that's refreshing, packed with nutrients, and has been a Sami favorite for centuries. It's not just a drink, it's a boost of energy and health in every sip, made from nature's finest ingredients. Berry juices were a cornerstone of the Sami diet, crafted from nutrient-rich berries like lingonberries, bilberries, and cloudberries that thrived in the Arctic landscape. These berries were carefully hand-picked during the summer months when they were at their ripest. The Sami would mash the fresh berries to extract their vibrant juice, which was not just a refreshing drink, but a powerhouse of vitamins, antioxidants, and natural energy. To preserve the juice for long, harsh winters, the Sami used natural fermentation. They would store the freshly extracted juice in wooden barrels or tightly sealed containers, allowing it to ferment slightly. This process not only extended the shelf life of the juice, but also enhanced its nutrient content, turning it into a drink that was both delicious and medicinal. Fermentation acted as nature's preservative, keeping the juice safe to drink for months, while adding a slight tangy flavor that many Sami cherished. During the darkest and coldest days of winter, these berry juices weren't just a treat, they were a lifeline. They provided essential nutrients like vitamin C, which helped ward off illnesses, and their natural sugars offered a much-needed energy boost. Whether consumed on its own or mixed into other dishes, berry juice was a versatile and vital part of the Sami survival strategy. And that wraps up our journey into the 20 incredible foods the Sami people stockpile to survive harsh conditions. Which one surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments. But here's the thing, there's so much more to discover. In our next video, we'll explore ancient cooking techniques that make survival foods even more delicious. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. Before you go, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who loves learning about unique food traditions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.